for this session. And we are really excited in UniWomen to be part of this family of innovation and technology. We started engaging in this a year ago through funding from Innovation Norway. And for us, before I get to talk about the blockchain simulation lab that we had at the end of January, and I am sure some of you were there, I'll say a little bit about why we're engaging in this and why it's important for us. I'm chief of the Humanitarian office in UniWomen, so obviously I will talk about the use of this technology for humanitarian purposes. I think we all know that crisis and peaks in protracted crisis have become the new normal. And we have a humanitarian funding gap at about 50%. We don't believe that we will be able to address that without finding new technology and new solutions to be, and I think you mentioned it, Ariana, faster, more efficient, more transparent. That's what we need to do. And I think blockchain technology really is what we're looking at to deliver much better. Is it the, yes, that one. Robert also mentioned that in order to achieve the Sustainable Development Goals, we need to start finding new solutions. So for us, what we're doing in UniWomen, what's important for us, and that comes to one of the questions that you mentioned earlier, what's the downside of some of these things? For us, we are engaged in this for one purpose mainly. Of course, in addition to the stuff you mentioned, it's important for us to reach gender equality and the empowerment of women and girls. For us to engage in this technology, it's important that we're able to, that we're not increasing the digital divide, but that we're actually using new technology to target better those that are left the furthest behind. So in doing that for UniWomen, we are not engaging in this in any way on our own. So everything we're doing with other partners, among those that have spoken here just earlier. And I also want to mention that for us, we believe that, I mean, we have innovation and technology as a sort of key driver of change in our strategic plan for UniWomen. When we started last year, we engaged in a hackathon in Norway, where we just wanted to see what was out there of ideas. And the key issue was to look at how we can transfer money in a better, more targeted way, and how we can work on identity solutions. So one of the solutions that came out through that hackathon process was this guy here, Olivier. He had been a refugee in DRC for 12 years. And he said his first opening remark was, he was talking about his mother. And he was saying that when he transferred money to his mother, this money would be taken by his uncle or his father and used for other purposes than what he intended for them to be used for. So at this hackathon, he gathered a group of people, and they came out with a solution called VP Cash to target specifically specific people, and also for the funds to be used for specific issues, so they couldn't be used for just anything. Now, VP Cash and also one of the other winners of that hackathon are now real companies. They are receiving investments, and they are implementing solutions in Kenya and in Uganda. So based on some of that work, we wanted to move forward. And we were again saying that for some of the problems that we wanted to solve, when it comes to identity, which was mentioned here earlier, we know that there's sort of 1.1 billion people without identity. Some of the challenges that we're facing when we look at a humanitarian situation is that people that are displaced or refugees, that situation is likely to last between 17 and 25 years. So it's not an emergency situation. So anything we're doing in that situation needs to look at the development perspective of how long time these people are going to be away from home. So for us, so you can imagine when I was first trying to understand how we could use blockchain technology, I was imagining if I was, let's say, a Syrian refugee coming to Jordan, I had no papers, I had nothing that could really identify maybe not who I was, but also what I would be doing all these 70 to 25 years, either in a refugee setting in Jordan, or maybe being on the move through Europe, for example. So let's say during all that time, I would be maybe teaching others something, and I would be doing something for the community. I would be able, through a blockchain technology, for people to then start identifying what I was, to build my CV and identify that I was something. I was not just a refugee. So it would help with addressing agency issues. And this, I think, is a really important thing beyond just the identity, but it means that the capacity of people that are on the move can be used much better. We were also looking at transfer of assets, and one of the solutions, and I think Arpita afterwards will, she'll give examples of the solution that we had at the blockchain event. They were looking at banking. They were looking at the unbanked. So they were saying, you have a lot of people that don't have access to banking systems. With the technology that they were presenting, they were saying that if everyone who has, $15, $20 under their mattress, if we provide one major bank account that they have access to, the interest rate from this would be money that are not available for any person anyway if you have it under the mattress, and it wouldn't be available for the bank if people have it on the mattress. Now, that interest rate, if that's being used to share between the blockchain technology company and the bank, they are getting profit. For the people who are receiving transfers, they are going to get, as you were saying, 100% of the funds, because there is no transaction cost for them. The money is being made in other ways. So there's actually quite brilliant ways of addressing this. Now, I don't have a lot of time, so I think we're going to go straight to Arpita, who's going to talk about the solutions that we had at the blockchain event. But I also want to make sure we get back to talking about the risks, because this, I think, is something that's really, really important. So, but let's hand it over to you.
Thank you, Carolina. Like Carolina said, anything and everything that we do in blockchain, we want to make sure that we progress with partnerships with other UN agencies, with the private sector. So what you see here is just the two sort of streams of partnerships that we have embarked on now and are sort of in the pipeline. I won't spend too much time on the WFP partnership that's in the pipeline right now, because Robert's done a great job of explaining a lot of that. All I will do is sort of give a quick sneak peek into what it looks like from our end. So right now, in Zaatari and Azra camps in Jordan, we have about 400 beneficiaries who receive money through cash for work opportunities through UN Women. And as of now, these women need to come to our empowerment hubs, or safe spaces that we call Oasis, to get this amount on a monthly basis. And this is done because of security concerns, to ensure that we do our bit to make sure that these women, in fact, do maintain control over the money that they receive. So what we want to do now is leverage the technology of blockchain, along with the work that WFP has already done through their Building Blocks project, to use the technology to ensure that we are conducting this project in a more efficient manner. What that means is we would upload these entitlements onto the blockchain and allow our beneficiaries to sort of cash it out in supermarkets that they go to on a regular basis. Now, how would that be done? Our first presenter explained what a node is. So UN Women would have a node on the WFP blockchain that would then allow both WFP and UN Women to sort of verify, making the process more secure than it would be otherwise. And we would upload entitlements on it could be a daily basis, it could be a weekly basis, and it can be received and accessed by these women on a relative real-time basis. Now, that would be beneficial for a couple of reasons. They have access to these amounts in a way through their phones, so they can make sure they can sort of record these transactions. And we're also trying to put in place measures where we can ensure that it continues to be equally accessible, and things like we are thinking about having the possibility of a real password and a dummy password, so that if in a case where a woman is in a situation where she's being asked about how much money she has in this account, she can sort of key in a dummy password and it'll just show zero balance. So these are some of the things that we are aware of, and we're specifically thinking about how will it benefit female beneficiaries and how can we make sure it's secure and most useful for them. Now, going on to the second stream of partnership, this is with the private sector that we've been able to look into with the generous support of Innovation Norway. So we started by last year by issuing an expression of interest, and we received about 17 applications. From there, we narrowed down to 7 companies we thought who held the most potential. And they were invited to present their solutions at the blockchain live test and simulation this January. So some of you may have been there, and I see a couple of familiar faces. And there, it was a very interactive experience. The participants could walk through the simulated setting, which is sort of a maze, and we had these 7 selected companies present their solutions. We're still going through this process, so we can't, because of procurement restrictions, we can't go into what exactly these solutions will be and what specific companies they are. But to give you a glimpse of what some of these are, in addition to what Carolina mentioned about banking the unbanked, other solutions include more on the end of identity, would include things like having a central access point for a woman who's displaced to have her health records, to have her, any of the certificates she has received through some of the education programs she might have done through UNICEF or through other UN agencies. So this is all in a single place where she can reveal it to whoever she needs to give access to. And again, there, for instance, if she's going to a doctor and needs to reveal or give access to some medical records, one of the possibilities that blockchain lends itself to is that it can be an external party can be given access to a certain document for a limited time. So the doctor could look at it for the half hour she's there, and she could rescind that access once she leaves. So again, this we're thinking about how this could be helpful if you're talking about police records, if there's records of domestic violence being. So again, these are the sort of broad areas where we see potential use cases with this technology. If we have time. Yeah, there's a video. Yeah. Yes. We thought it'd be nice to share what. Oh, So as it said there, we're in the phase where we are ready to take the final selected vendors to the field for a brief field testing in the coming 2 months, after which we'll pick the most suitable ones to integrate into our longer term programming. On that.